Xianxia and the others, after relaxing for a few days, suddenly heard the extreme martial sect's gathering bell. Not only the true disciples were gathered, there were also the disciples above true martial realm. 100 or so people have gathered in a large courtyard inside the extreme martial sect's mysterious realm. Gu Dongchen first praised the bravery of Xianxia and the others, then personally gave them rewards. This was also the most exciting moment, in particular for Zhu Rong. 1,000,000 crystal stones, 500 true elemental dawn, bronze disciples and silver warrior medals, as well as direct entry to the King Martial Courtyard without any assessment. This made many onlooking disciples extremely envious. Gu Dongchen too intentionally convened these disciples, ruthlessly made them envious and made them feel regret. After the gathering ended, Wu Kaming and Gu Dongchen entered a private room with Xianxia. Young martial uncle, this time, you made my heart bleed too much. The heavenly heart flame was something I had collected a very long time ago. Gu Dongchen complainingly said. Xianxia pursed his lips and said, You bunch of good-for-nothings, you were almost hoodwinked by these devil path and also sent us to our deaths. If not for your martial uncles, my breakthrough at the critical moment, you cannot so leisurely sit here. Both Wu Kaming and Gu Dongchen could not say anything. If not for Xianxia, this freak in the southern wasteland, perhaps now they would have been plunged into a bitter single. Both of them were very well aware of the fact that there were many powerful guys sealed in the southern wasteland. Young martial uncle, didn't you say you have building foundation dawn? Can't you sell some to me for a little less? Gu Dongchen asked. Xianxia gave a pout before raising his head high. Not a crystal stone less, 500,000 for one. Buy or not, I don't care. The extreme martial sect's dean, a 7th tribulation nirvana realm martial artist, was someone whom Xianxia would not be afraid about not having crystal stones. If Gu Dongchen encountered such a person, he would have originally ruthlessly struck him down a couple of times. However, looking at his martial nephew's identity, he knew that Xianxia also gave a very reasonable price. If the building foundation dawn were taken for auction, and if he encountered someone with urgent need, it could be sold for a much higher price, not just 500,000 crystal stones. Gu Dongchen and Wu Kaming were both somewhat speechless, but now there was no other way. How many do you have? Wu Kaming asked. 40. You guys can only buy all of them at once. Otherwise, I will not sell them. Xianxia laughed and said, Young martial uncle, Zhu Rong, that fatty, I'm afraid is not as sinister as you. Forget it, we will take it. Wu Kaming forcefully smiled and said, Do you want crystal stones or true elemental dawn? Gu Dongchen asked. True elemental dawn. Because some auction houses only accept the true elemental dawn, by the time he entered those, he would need to go and exchange for true elemental dawn, and that would definitely be very troublesome. The total worth was 20 million crystal stones, and exchanging them for true elemental dawn amounted to 4,000. Previously, Elder Dan had also taken out many true elemental dawn in one breath. Today, Gu Dongchen was also like that, and it was evident that in the hand of these tycoons, there was a large amount of true elemental dawn. However, they intentionally let others feel the scarcity by only taking them out bit by bit. The dawn could be preserved for a very long time, and these 10,000 years old tycoons for so many years had certainly accumulated a lot. After all, it was also an important resource for the development of the sect. When Xianxia returned to the extreme Dan King courtyard, he didn't find Elder Dan, and he also discovered that no one took care of his herb garden. This caused him to feel somewhat doubtful. Elder Dan very much cared about his herb garden. However, now that it was put aside, although it wouldn't really matter that much, it was just that the growth of the herbs would slow down a lot. Xianxia knocked on the door of Wu Qianqian. Wu Qianqian, since coming back, became very diligent. For several times, Xianxia went to find her, but she was focused on alchemy all the time, and it was the case even now. Qianqian, have you seen Elder Dan? Xianxia asked. No, I'm also looking for her. However, she had said that if I can't find her, then there is no need to look for her. It's very likely she had went into closed-door training. Wu Qianqian replied. Her whole body at the moment was drenched in fragrant perspiration, soaking her thin clothes, closely sticking along with her charming tender body. It was very eye-catching. Xianxia from time to time glanced at her bosom, which was met with a light spat as she covered her bosom quickly. I want to refine dawn. I think that I will be able to refine 4 dawn with 1 set of herbs very quickly. Then from your hands, I can earn true elemental dawn. Xianxia laughed and said, then increase your efforts. Your strength is already pretty good. However, there is still room for improvement. Don't always keep yourself occupied with alchemy. Make sure to be uniform in every other aspects. Xianxia nodded her head. Xianxia returned to the herb garden and diluted the golden dragon saliva coalesced in the southern wasteland into the water, before watering the various rare herbs and flowers in the herb garden. Sister Meiyao, do you think the white jade lotus flower can be grown into a lotus? Xianxia suddenly thought of this and excitedly asked. No idea, but you can try. However, the white jade lotus seems to be grown in water, which is in the sea of the Lotus Island. Su Meiyao said. Xianxia hastily fetched a small pond in the herb garden and said, how to irrigate it? It was also his first time watering the herbs to make them grow. Directly pouring into the water was not enough, it would directly mix with water. Very easy. Just use your divine sense to wrap the golden dragon saliva, and then control it into the water. Afterwards, you just have to infuse it into the white jade lotus seed. Su Meiyao said. Xianxia placed that bead braving in white light into the water, before taking out a small bottle of golden dragon saliva. At the same time, he poured it into the water and wrapped it with his powerful divine sense, creating an invisible white shield on the outer layer of the golden dragon saliva, isolating it from the water. This way it could seep into the white jade lotus seed. If the white jade lotus seed could absorb it, then we could assume that it could be planted. If you had a lot of these in the future, it will be very difficult for you to die. Su Meiyao tenderly laughed and said. Although it was in the water, Xianxia could sense the situation of the golden dragon saliva, and he could also see it being absorbed by the white jade lotus seed. This made him very excited. The hell spirit grass, although a sacred healing herb, was still not good for planting because it required death chi, while the effect of the white jade lotus seed was somewhat better than the hell spirit grass, not to mention that it could also be planted. In this way, even if he had completely used up all of his hell spirit grass, he still did not need to worry about sacred healing herbs. Xianxia now also had 100 building foundation dawn, but at the moment he still didn't know how to use them. He still hadn't found the suitable candidates for nurturing, and Yun Xiaodao and the others had already eaten too many. Eating more would do more harm than good, and that would also make their foundation unstable. As for him, there was no obvious effect if he took them, and they would only be wasted. It seems I have to go to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire to find Sister Menger and sell a little to her. Xianxia thought he could ruthlessly dupe Lu Menger a little, and he secretly thought it was cool. He was not only planning to look for Lu Menger, he was also planning to go to Danxiang Taoyuan. However, he first wanted to see whether the white jade lotus seed could be planted or not. At the moment, it still could not be determined. Currently, he was also not sure when there would be any activity in the white jade lotus seed. Moreover, he had used just enough of the golden dragon saliva, and he still had some coalesced golden dragon saliva left. Looking at those azure profound trees, Xianxia decided to not ripen them first. He was not in need of the building foundation dawn at the moment. Moreover, he was also lacking in dawn, which could allow him to improve his cultivation a tad bit faster. For instance, the 5 elements true elemental dawn. Now he was still collecting the ingredients, and he was sure it would not take him too long before he could gather all the ingredients. By that time, as long as he had a stable foundation, he could immediately improve. The King Martial Courtyard in the extreme martial sect's mysterious realm. Although it was small, Yun Xiaodao and the others did not feel disappointed. On the contrary, they were rather excited. In their opinion, entering this King Martial Courtyard was an honor. Xianxia and the other 10 were all gathered here. As soon as he came, he saw Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong wearing 2 small medals on their chest, which was the clear proof of being a bronze disciple and silver warrior. Xianxia was unable to hold his laughter. It seems only the 2 of you can be high profile. As he glanced at the others, he discovered that the others were unlike them. This is what we got after busting our asses in the southern wasteland, and this is our honor. Yun Xiaodao replied as if he did not care at all and struck out his chest. Zhu Rong also proudly said, While I have these 2 medals on the way, the others looked at me with different expressions in their eyes. Xianxia shook his head and smiled. When you can get the golden casted medal, then show off again. With one glance, everyone will know that you guys are lazy. If it was someone who cultivated regularly, he would have already thrown it away. Yun Xiaodao let out a snort and said, "Can't I wear it on the first day of the King Martial Courtyard?" At this moment, Gu Dongchen arrived. He was the chief of the King Martial Courtyard, and Xianxia and the others still didn't know in the end what was so special inside this courtyard. In Xianxia's eyes, for the dean to personally teach them martial skills, it didn't really amount to anything, but for the other disciples, it was a kind of a special treatment. Everyone, before going to the southern wasteland, were all trained by Gu Dongchen. Now, they did not feel any need for formality. It was as if a junior was just facing his elder. They could speak and smile nonchalantly. During the 3 months of special training, our elder courtyard has analyzed your strengths and weaknesses. Now, I will arrange your cultivation in accordance with this aspect and teach you martial skills. Gu Dongchen said. Everyone were suddenly thrilled inside their hearts. Before, the 3 months of special training was for them to survive in the southern wasteland, and at that time they were more or less worried whether they could come back or not. But now, they were in the King Martial Courtyard for at least 3 years, and they could even get guidance from Gu Dongchen himself. There are 3 alchemists here, and to not affect your alchemy, I have made a better arrangement for all of you. Gu Dongchen then looked at Xianxia and slightly smiled. Xianxia, you are now a lot stronger than the other 9. I also don't have too much time. That's why you will have to sacrifice your time. I will not personally guide you. The time saved will be spent on other disciples. Xianxia shrugged his shoulders as a look of, it was none of his business appeared on his face. His teacher was Huang Jintian, and the obtained inheritance could already make Gu Dongchen envious himself. Moreover, Gu Dongchen didn't really have anything to guide him. Gu Dongchen began to talk about some cultivation, but Xianxia was not interested in this. After yawning, he immediately left, and this caused Yun Xiaodao and the others to feel somewhat sorry, because Xianxia could not receive the guidance of Gu Dongchen. Xianxia walked out of the extreme martial sect's mysterious realm. He knew that in the future, he might rarely get a hold of Yun Xiaodao and the others. A while ago, he had heard of some of the plans of Gu Dongchen, and in his heart, he was secretly laughing, especially for Zhu Rong. Zhu Rong's time was heavily scheduled, and it would definitely be extremely arduous. Every day, staying in the extreme Dan King courtyard had caused him to feel bored. He roamed around in the martial courtyards one by one, yet he still failed to find any good seedlings. What are you doing here? Quickly go sign up. A man shouted at a group of people walking down the road. Sign up for what? A man asked somewhat confusedly. Don't you know? 30 years ago, the missing genius with 3 pulses has returned. Moreover, he has advanced to the 7th level of the true martial realm. He now wants to rope in some people and go out for some experience, but first, those people would need to go through his assessment. That man replied. The group of people were all old, and they knew who that missing person was. After they heard of his return, they suddenly rejoiced and hastily followed along with that man. Genius that was missing for 30 years. Xianxia rubbed his chin as he also hastily followed along. He wanted to see who this person was. 3 pulses represented that one could cultivate 3 kinds of true qi. However, it required a rather good martial exercise, and only then would cultivating it be possible, otherwise it would be difficult to advance. The cultivation process was also very complicated. Take Xianxia for example, if he could control his true qi better, then regarding his strength there was no need to speak of it anymore. This man was actually outside the extreme martial sect. Along the way, Xianxia also saw a lot of people. After hearing the news, all of them were rushing because if they were selected, they would get a lot of dawn, and that was rather very attractive. Senior brother, are you also going? A man seeing Xianxia following everyone along, immediately asked. Xianxia nodded his head and laughed. Going to join in the fun? The man replied, You'd better not go. This guy is the disciple of Elder Lu. He is also a high-level foster son of the Lu family. Xianxia frowned. The Lu family had migrated long ago and left the extreme martial province. The extreme martial sect's high-level figures also knew Lu family had colluded with the Devil Path. However, there was no evidence. That was why they could not do anything. The Lu family did not pose a threat to the extreme martial sect, so the extreme martial sect also put it aside. Furthermore, there were no important people in the extreme martial sect from the Lu family. It doesn't matter. I have not offended him. Moreover, Lu family has done some things to me. Who doesn't know this? I only did what a normal person would have done. Xianxia pursed his lips and said. Although he said so, he had already done some preparation for that man. This time, he also wanted to take a look at that man's bottom line. 30 years ago, the man was indeed a genius, though he was probably not better than Xianxia. But at that time, in the extreme martial sect, everyone knew his name. Lu Jie. He disappeared for 30 years. Where the hell did he went? Xianxia, in his heart, was doubtful as he walked rather slowly. He was somewhat suspicious that the Lu family had been colluding with the Devil Path sects from a very long time ago. If this Lu Jie went inside these Devil Path sects and now he came back again, then it might be a conspiracy of the Devil Path sect. If he had returned somewhat earlier or later, Xianxia wouldn't have such doubts. But now he had come after the Devil Path's plan in the southern wasteland failed. Xianxia could not help but become suspicious. Su Meiyao suddenly said, "You have to be careful. The Devil Path sect in the southern wasteland have suffered heavy losses, and if that guy, Lu Jie, really came back from the Devil Path sect, I'm afraid he has come for you." Xianxia certainly have thought of this. However, this was in the periphery of the extreme martial sect, and Xianxia also had nothing to worry about. It was inside a hotel on the 3rd floor. This time, outside the hotel, there were many people, and they were all waiting in line for their interview. People from inside kept on coming out, and all of them had a look of disappointment. There is indeed a 7th-level true martial realm martial artist. The true chi within his body are fire, lightning, and gold respectively. 3 kinds of attribute, and they are also very pure and have overbearing true chi. Long Shui suddenly determined. Xianxia was now in the 5th level of the true martial realm. Not to mention 3 pulses martial artist against a single pulse, he would not necessarily be victorious, but he would manage to be even against 1. Although his true chi was very rich, his current cultivation level at the true martial realm was still inferior. One must know that the more the true chi was gathered, the higher the degree of compression would become. By observing his true chi, he does not appear to be from Devil Path. However, he doesn't really need to know Devil Path martial exercise because just like you, your true chi is pure as well as rich, yet you can still use powerful devil techniques. Bai Yu said. Xianxia didn't step into the hotel, turned around and left. He felt he must look for Wu Kaming. Make him pay attention to this Lu Jie. He had just turned around, before a rather dull voice with a sliver of pride came. "Since you have come, why leave?" God knows from where the sound came. It was not very loud, yet everyone felt as if it rang inside their ears. This was the voice of Lu Jie. Hearing Lu Jie's voice, Xianxia was a bit surprised. While coming over, Xianxia had converged his breath, yet he was still sensed by Lu Jie. It was obvious that Lu Jie's divine sense was not on the weak side. Xianxia had not planned to meet with Lu Jie, so he pretended not to hear him. Rather, Xianxia just continued to walk, but immediately after from above, he heard the sound of a window opening, before a man jumped down from the 3rd floor of the hotel and stood in front of him. Lu Jie was garbed in a luxurious white robe and was holding a fan. He was very handsome with his sword-like eyebrows, long eyes and fair complexion. At the moment he was sizing up Xianxia. "Was it you who killed my master?" Lu Jie dismissively asked. From the expression in eyes, not a sliver of anger could be seen. This caused Xianxia to feel strange. Originally at the entrance there were many people standing, and all of them recognized Xianxia and Lu Jie. In many people's opinion, Lu Jie should be somewhat stronger than Xianxia. However, Lu Jie's master death in Xianxia's hands was well known to everyone, and Lu Jie hating Xianxia was also taken for granted. But now seeing Lu Jie looking so indifferent made everyone feel strange. Xianxia replied, "Yes, I killed him." Lu Jie slightly smiled. "My master has always been my target, and my teacher was killed by you, so now you are my target." Do you dare to have a bout with me? The other party was in the 7th level of the true martial realm, 2 levels higher than Xianxia. Xianxia wouldn't take on this kind of stupid matter because if he didn't use the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, he would be a lot weaker. Moreover, he had just entered the 5th level of the true martial realm, and he was yet to fully familiarize himself with his current capability. Not interested, Xianxia replied. Once these words came out, Lu Jie's complexion immediately changed. It turned a lot colder. Xianxia felt something was wrong. Just as he had this kind of feeling, he was invaded by a dangerous feeling. Be careful, Long Shui tenderly shouted, but it was too late. Xianxia only felt a power fiercely bombarding on his dantian, so as to make his body seem to be struck by a million of gene of power. Although he did not have the time to dodge, the true qi within his body automatically operated, and also most of the power was resisted by the black tortoise adamantal armor hiding under his skin. Xianxia, from the impact of the sudden invading power, retreated 2 steps. From the corners of his mouth, a trace of blood gradually flowed out and dripped on the ground. At the moment, his 5 zhang and 6 fu were all ruptured. Just a moment ago, he felt everything within his body was being pressed upon, as if it was being crushed. In just a blink of an eye, he was seriously injured. The true qi within his dantian was difficult to mobilize, because most of his meridians had been damaged. If he forcefully utilized true qi, it would only cause even more serious damage to his meridians. Xianxia clenched his fist. His line of sight was currently somewhat fuzzy, but it gradually recovered. Now, his complexion was somewhat pale, yet it was still full of anger. What's the matter with you? Lu Jie asked. Xianxia's whole body quivered. He found Lu Jie had been standing there with that fan in his hand, and yet he was able to release such a powerful attack. Not even the least bit of aura was leaked. The surrounding people were also giving a strange look to Xianxia. They only saw Xianxia retreat 2 steps a moment ago, and then blood suddenly overflowed from his mouth. Lu Jie, I'll not let you off. Xianxia wiped the trace of blood on the corners of his mouth, before he spoke with an expressionless look, appearing very tranquil. If not for the fact that he himself was capable, perhaps he would have been crippled a moment ago. Lu Jie started out rather heavily. Now do you want to compete with me? Lu Jie once again slightly smiled. His smile was rather cunning. Xianxia knew Lu Jie must have used some powerful means to attack him. However, it was not seen by others. He himself did not see anything, and he knew that this kind of attack was definitely formidable. No, I'm going to kill you, Xianxia coldly said. He had not even walked 2 steps, before he suffered a lightning-like kick, hitting him on the knees and causing him to kneel on 1 knee. Everyone was immediately shocked. All of them fiercely backed off as they realized something must have definitely occurred a moment ago, which caused Xianxia to speak out these kind of ruthless words. Lu Jie's face turned completely cold. Extreme martial sect's top youngest expert. Good prestigious name. I now want to make you kneel. I'd like to see what is your ability. Seriously, I hate your very face. I'm jealous of the fame you got. I want to destroy you. I'll use my strength to prove that I'm stronger than you. While speaking, Lu Jie grabbed Xianxia's hair, while his foot was on Xianxia's other knee. He intended to make Xianxia kneel on both legs. Xianxia was completely angry. He did not expect Lu Jie's thoughts would be so abnormal. Xianxia's arm suddenly turned incomparably fiery. This was the power lended to him by Long Shui. She too could not stand idly and watch. Kneel down. Lu Jie raised his leg as he shouted with a grim voice. He vigorously kicked on Xianxia's other knee. In his opinion, Xianxia was already heavily injured and was not able to resist anymore. Xianxia's anger had reached the boiling point. His face turned very red as shocking slaughter qi overwhelmingly emerged at the hotel's entrance, sending many bystanders to involuntarily quiver. At this moment, they felt as if they were in hell. They felt that the slaughter qi could seize their life at any moment. Xianxia had killed a lot. The evil creatures he had killed were rather difficult to count, so the slaughter qi he accumulated could even make those deans feel ashamed. Lu Jie, at this moment, was slightly astonished as he stared at Xianxia in dismay. On 1 knee, Xianxia burst into a roar. This roar was filled with anger like a dragon's roar, causing the entire hotel to slightly shook from its power. The roar echoed everywhere, and it was extremely terrifying. At the same time he let out that furious roar, Xianxia blasted out his fist like a thunderbolt, and it ruthlessly and quickly landed on the only visible part between Lu Jie's two legs. That crazy fist's strength suddenly surged into Lu Jie's body, and he was unable to endure it as he fiercely spewed out a mouthful of blood. After that terrifying strength entered Lu Jie's body, even undulations burst forth from his body with the fierce winds. In an instant, the place where Lu Jie stood was completely wrecked. With both of his hands covering the place in between his legs, Lu Jie trembled and retreated a few steps back. His complexion turned ashen, but there was more of a shock written all over his face. He himself was rather clear of the power Xianxia's fist had exuded from a moment ago. Either quickly get out, or continue to stay in the extreme martial sect. Whoever insult me must die. Xianxia's voice was filled with hate. It was sharp as a blade, bringing about a lingering fear to everyone nearby. Xianxia strided away. Although Long Shui's power was still there, he could not use it. His body had suffered serious injuries, yet he had still used Long Shui's great power, and this would make it difficult for him to recover. If he was even a tad bit more seriously injured, he would have been crippled. A while ago, that guy hit you with a fist in a very, very quick speed. Moreover, his attack was so quiet that when I discovered it, you have already been hit. Long Shui said, "This kind of martial skill is very rare. Is it the legendary ghost martial technique?" Su Meiyao doubtfully said. Xianxia returned to the extreme Dan King courtyard. He had ruthlessly punched the manhood of Lu Jie, yet he was only injured, nothing more. The power within his fist a moment ago was not at all weak, but it could be seen that Lu Jie's defense was also stronger. Xianxia knew that Lu Jie was a powerful enemy. After eating a piece of hell spirit grass, Xianxia felt a lot better. However, his injuries were still very serious, which left him with no choice but to eat some more hell spirit grass to recover faster. Ghost martial technique? Xianxia felt that it was definitely something frightening. An invisible martial skill. A martial skill similar to a ghost, thus its name. However, this kind of ghost martial technique has already been lost with time. Its learning conditions are also very harsh. Su Meiyao said till here, before she burst into a strange laugh. Bai Yuyu let out a cold snort as she spoke. The ghost martial technique has always been learned by females. If a man insisted on learning it, the consequence could only be one in the end. That is the shriveling of his manhood. The corner of Xianxia's mouth fiercely twitched for a while. He suddenly understood why when he struck in between Lu Jie's legs, he didn't felt anything there. No wonder this guy is so abnormal. Xianxia slightly gasped. Although he had a high bounty on his head, many people were jealous of him. After all, his name was already well known throughout the entire Qinwu mainland, and many martial artists dreamed to be world famous. All of them had degrees of vanity. I want to kill this guy. I want to become strong. Xianxia fiercely pounded both his fists on the ground and ruthlessly shouted. Regarding the ghost martial technique, we don't know too much about it, but from looking at his attack, we discovered that the true qi he had used was very strong. From the start, he wanted to kill you, so he exhausted all his power. However, after it struck your body, the strength was less than in general, and because of your tough, powerful body and the black tortoise adamantal armor, your life was saved. Su Meiyao said. Although that scene when Xianxia got attacked was quite short, it was still clearly engraved in their mind, so they could perform such a detailed analysis. So you have to toughen up your body. If you use the universal true qi along with divine exercises, your strength should be comparable to his. But you still have to defend against his ghost martial technique. If he had attacked you again, you would have definitely died. Fortunately, that guy wanted to make you kneel down to him. Bai Yuyu said, a powerful body, it was rather easy to speak than to make it the truth. Just wanting to become stronger would not make him stronger. Currently, his immortal and devil body was at second level, however, he could not progress and reached a bottleneck. Not to mention in a short time, even if I have a long time, it's difficult to progress in my body cultivation. Xianxia heaved a deep sigh. Says who? When you had obtained the black tortoise adamantal armor last time, didn't you get a black tortoise external strength technique? Bai Yu said. Xianxia's eyes lit up, he had almost forgotten. At that time, he had given it to these two beauties to look over. The prerequisites are rather harsh. The first thing required is to have a second-level immortal and devil body. The second is to have an extremely large furnace, along with someone who is very proficient in controlling the flames. The third requires the cultivator to jump into the furnace and operate the cultivation method of the black tortoise external strength technique inside. The fourth is to be able to come out of the furnace alive. Su Meiyao said. The corner of Xianxia's eyes twitched. Wasn't this committing suicide? Jump into a furnace for tempering. What is he supposed to do if he got cooked alive? This is just the entry stage of the black tortoise external strength technique. According to aforementioned records, if the entry stage is accomplished, your second-level immortal and devil body would directly advance to 5th level. Bai Yu said. Listening to her tone, she very much supported the idea of Xianxia going through the tempering. The second-level immortal and devil body already made Xianxia extremely powerful, not to mention the 5th level. If his body was not in the second level, he would not have been able to do so many things. For instance, fuse with the fire spirit, learn powerful divine exercises or devil techniques, all of which had very high requirements for the body. How long would it take? 3 days and 3 nights. This is just the entry stage. After the entry stage, you will need to gather other mixtures to temper your body. If it is the furnace, then ordinary molten iron would be enough. Listening to Su Meiyao's words, Xianxia's complexion turned pale. Molten iron. Jumping into it for refining, and that too for 3 days and nights. Xianxia would very much like to know who thought out this abnormal external strength technique. He would also like to ask whether this person had actually gone through this kind of body tempering. Xianxia shook his head. As long as it was any sane person, they would feel fear regarding these methods. I do not meet enough conditions. I don't have that big of a furnace. Nor can I think of anyone to help me in tempering. Xianxia said with a wry smile. You absolutely meet enough. The divine weapon Heavenly Empire's Empress definitely has this kind of furnace. She is a grand refiner. In regards to controlling flames, that is definitely not a problem. You have already seen her body. Moreover, you know each other's many confidential secret. She will definitely help. Su Meiyao let out an ambiguous tender laugh. From here, the divine weapon Heavenly Empire was somewhat distant. However, if he used the vermilion bird fire wings, he would be able to reach it quite soon. Moreover, from a long time ago he had wanted to visit and take a look around. Lu Jie. I'll definitely kill you. Even make you kneel before me. Xianxia became resolute in his heart, and decided to go to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire and go through the tempering. 2 days passed and Xianxia had completely recovered. If not for him having the Hell Spirit Grass, he wouldn't know how long it would have taken him to recover. Moreover, Xianxia and Lu Jie's matter had already spread to the ears of many people. However, Xianxia had always been staying in the extreme Dan King courtyard. Those who wanted to find him could not find him. Wu Kaming and Gu Dongqin both knocked on the door, but it was only opened by Wu Qianqian. Wu Qianqian knew Xianxia was recovering inside the private room. That was why she did not bother to go. Regarding this, she had also been very concerned. These past 2 days, Yun Xiaodao and the others had all met with her to ask about Xianxia's situation. Xianxia, how are you? Wu Qianqian hadn't refined any dawn these past 2 days. She sat in the room waiting for Xianxia. From the information she had heard, Xianxia was spewing blood, and was almost forced to kneel down. She had a pretty good understanding regarding his strength. The fact that he vomited blood was evidence in itself that Xianxia had been seriously injured. Xianxia mischievously smiled. I'm all good now. I've recovered from my injuries. That guy hasn't left yet, right? Wu Qianqian saw Xianxia's mischievous smile and heaved a long sigh. That guy called Lu Jie challenged an elder yesterday and also defeated him, even though the elder was in the 8th level of the true martial realm. He was very strong. Both the dean and elder Wu attested to this. Xianxia was shocked in his heart, Lu Jie could fight with a 8th level true martial realm elder. He was sure his own fist was quite heavy, and with the aid of Long Shui's power it was comparable with 7th level true martial realm, even though he had weakened the power at that time in order to not damage his own body. You want to kill him? Wu Qianxian asked in some worry. I'm definitely going to kill him. Whoever insults me must die. Chen Xiang coldly said as invisible slaughter qi suddenly overflowed from his body, making Wu Qianxian's whole body cold. If Dean and Elder Wu come to look for me, tell them I went to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. Qianxian, you do not need to worry about me. As long as Lu Jie remains in the extreme martial sect for 10 days, I'll definitely send him to hell. Chen Xiang threw out the sentence before he walked out of the extreme Dan King courtyard. He quietly left the extreme martial sect and Tianmen City. Currently, there was still a 15 million crystal stones bounty on him. He must improve rather quickly to deal with this. After leaving the Tianmen City, Chen Xiang released the vermilion bird firewings and soared into the sky. He arrived above the clouds before he flew towards the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. It would probably take him 2 or so days to get there. If he had not strided into the 5th level of the true martial realm, it would have taken him even longer. After 2 days and 2 nights of uninterrupted flying, a rather huge city far away appeared in Chen Xiang's view. This was the largest of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, the Divine Weapon City. Chen Xiang saw a blade and a sword erected at the entrance of the city, causing him to suddenly utter a cry of shock. Both the blade and the sword were rather huge. They were even higher than the city walls, and it seemed they were forged of iron. After entering the city, a rather bustling scene of the city came into Chen Xiang's view. Most of the store inside were selling weapons and armors. Moreover, he could also hear many sounds of hammering of iron. Because the refining of equipments required flames, there was a floor of refining on each of the store. This led to the rise of the entire city's temperature. The citizens here were very sturdy. All of them were tall, strong, and very warm. But of course, no small number of people also came from other provinces. Majority of them came here to buy the appropriate weapon, or came to get the goods to sell in other provinces. East of the city was the Divine Weapon Palace, which was surrounded by red high walls. It was the same as the extreme martial sect and had many courtyards of various sizes. In the past, it used to be the Divine Weapon sect, the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire's main organization. Inside there were not only disciples, there were also some officials who were responsible for dealing various things for the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. Just as Chen Xiang arrived at the entrance of the Divine Weapon Palace, he stopped and took out the token given to him by Lu Menger. I want to see your empress, Chen Xiang dismissively said. He had easily arrived here since he had not encountered any kind of attack on the way. Wearing a straw hat, a big beard on his face, and also an eye patch covering one eye, made it harder for others to recognize him. Those guards at the main entrance, after seeing the token, did not dare to show the slightest bit of neglect, and had someone arranged to go with Chen Xiang. As far as they know, not many could have this token. If required, the token could be used to mobilize the army of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. Having this token was also the proof of good relation with Lu Menger, and it was also the sign of her trust. These guards knew Xianxia also had one. If Chen Xiang was familiar with the Divine Weapon Palace, he could also walk around with that token, but currently he was not even aware of the meaning of the token. Chen Xiang followed that guard through courtyards one after another, and finally arrived at a very remote place. In front is Her Majesty's residence. I cannot go there. I don't dare to approach any closer. After speaking these words, the guard hurriedly left. In front there was a very big courtyard, and Chen Xiang could even see a small mountain inside. At the same time, he could also smell the fragrance of flowers wafting from inside out. Indeed, it was the residence of a female. No one was around the large courtyard. It was rather quiet in here, and one could hear the cries of birds coming from the courtyard from time to time. Chen Xiang walked over. Originally, he had planned to directly go over the wall into the room and give Lu Menger a pleasant surprise. However, he didn't expect he would be sent into retreat by a powerful force. A very powerful formation was actually guarding the courtyard. Who? From inside the courtyard, a noble yet cold and beautiful shout came out. "It's me!" Xianxia replied low-spiritedly. The door automatically opened. With a mischievous smile, Xianxia immediately walked inside. Just as he entered, the door was automatically closed, which made him secretly amazed. Lu Menjur was actually lazy. After entering, a beautiful woman wearing a white longuette, leisurely sitting on the soft lawn, came into his view. Her eyebrows were twitching as she was observing a spirit pattern picture on a paper. At the moment, her pretty eyes were glistening strangely. This place was overflowing with the fragrance of flowers, as well as an intoxicating body fragrance of female. Seeing the elegant, refined and with noble bearing Lu Menjur in front, Xianxia's heart fluttered. He could not help but think of various ambiguous things he had experienced with her inside his mind. This made his lower abdomen suddenly hot. Humph! Lu Menjur, although she still hadn't seen Xianxia, still felt the bizarre temperature change in Xianxia's body, causing her to spat. Regarding Xianxia, this little rascal, she was already used to his demeanor. Lu Menjur stood up and walked towards Xianxia. Feeling the fragrant wind blowing, Xianxia, who was in a daze, suddenly regained his senses as he mischievously laughed and said, "Sister Menjur, I came to see you." "Right, where is Xianxia? Is she not together with you?" "I have sent her to the Icewind Valley. Both Xianxia and Yulan have the very same constitution. Going there for her is very good." Lu Menjur glared at Xianxia in resentment. With arms akimbo, she let out a tender snort before asking, "What is it? Quickly speak." Looking at that face that was as peerless and as beautiful as jade, Xianxia mischievously laughed. "Sister Menjur, I truly came to see you in Xianxia, and I conveniently want your help too." Humph! Usually, Lu Menjur would have a cold, proud, and noble attitude, but after encountering Xianxia, she was at her wit's end, and her real character was exposed. Xianxia scratched his head and laughed foolishly. "Sister Menjur, aren't you going to ask me to sit down, then give me some tea or something?" "Pooh! You have some business with me. Why should I serve you?" Lu Menjur concluded that Xianxia came because of something. Although she herself and Shui Xianxian often told Xianxia to come here, they knew Xianxia's character. If he truly wanted to come, then he would have already arrived. Lu Menjur directly sat down on the lawn and said, "Just sit down. You don't have anything to hurry about, but I'm very busy." Xianxia sat cross-legged on the ground. Looking at Lu Menjur, he laughed and said, "Sister Menjur, are you angry at me?" Lu Menjur tenderly snorted and said, "Who dares to get angry with you? You made us old tycoons bleed so much. On the contrary, Hua Xiangyue, that seductress, only gave you a bit of dawn which didn't held any value." Xianxia was surprised for a moment. He suddenly felt Lu Menjur seemed to be jealous and also interested in him. This made his heart suddenly palpitate as he felt some sort of inexplicable excitement. "Sister Menjur, you are truly stupid. How could you send Yulan and Xianxian to the southern wasteland? That was too dangerous," Xianxia blamingly said. When Xianxia raised this matter, Lu Menjur suddenly got angry. With her tender finger, she ruthlessly poked on Xianxia's forehead as too tender blush could not help but emerge on her beautiful face. "It is all because of you. I wouldn't have let them go, but Yulan, that girl actually said big rabbits. Since I didn't let her go, she kept on saying, humph, humph. Finally, I also had no other options as I could only make Xianxian follow her along, lest anything went wrong with that thick-skinned girl." Lung Yolan's voice was full of complaint. It was all Xianxia's fault, and it was him who had taught Lung Yulan everything. Xianxia embarrassingly started laughing. "Cough, cough, Sister Menjur. I have 20 building foundation dawn. Does your divine weapon Heavenly Empire want it? If you want it, I can sell them to you." Lu Menjur was surprised first, before she hastily replied, "I want it. Say your price." An evil smile appeared on Xianxia's face. "Kiss me and I'll give you." Lu Menjur tenderly spat in response and said, "Don't joke. Quickly say the price." Suddenly, the smile on Xianxia's face disappeared. He solemnly said, I don't want money. I just want Sister Menger to help me with something. Lu Menger frowned tightly and asked, What is it? Speak what you need. Sister Menger, do you have a big furnace? Lu Menger nodded her head. I have. I usually use the big furnace for refining a large number of materials for refining equipments. Do you want me to help you refine something? Did you come to me for this trivial thing? Xianxia shook his head and said with a wry smile, I don't want you to refine something for me. Rather, I want you to refine me. What? Lu Menger suspected she had heard him wrong. Refine him? Was it not a suicidal act? Xianxia, seeing the slightly surprised appearance of Lu Menger, handed her a beast skin. Lu Menger's memory was excellent. She remembered when Xianxia obtained the black tortoise adamantal armor, this beast skin was inside with the black tortoise external strength technique written on it. At that time, Xianxia wanted to give her a copy, but she had refused. As she opened it, those esoteric martial art method appeared in her view. Because it was a powerful divine exercise, her breath couldn't help but turn heavy as her chest heaved up and down. I didn't expect it to be so formidable. However, the requirements are considerably high. It actually requires second-level immortal and devil body. You should have not reached it yet. Lu Menger said, according to her knowledge, the second-level immortal and devil body should be comparable to the body of an 8th or 9th level true martial realm martial artist. She had also reached that level in the past. After looking through the black tortoise external strength technique, Lu Menger immediately understood why Xianxia came to look for her. But now she was considering whether she should help Xianxia or not. If refining him had some mishaps, then Xianxia would end up dying. I have already reached it, Xianxia said as he scratched his head while laughing. Lu Menger's tender body quivered. With a look of disbelief, she glanced at Xianxia. Her slender and tender hand rushed over to Xianxia like lightning, grabbing a hold of Xianxia's wrist. She said in a soft voice, Don't resist. I'll check if you truly have the second-level immortal and devil body. If you have it, then I'll help you. Under normal circumstance, Lu Menger could not see through Xianxia at all. If she didn't carefully probe Xianxia's body, in her eyes, Xianxia would be same as an ordinary man. As she let her divine sense enter Xianxia's body, she probed the strength of his body. If she hadn't done this, then she would have never noticed. However, the moment she did, she immediately discovered that Xianxia's body was far more stronger than she had imagined. Humph! You hide too well. Lu Menger retracted her hand back. Xianxia mischievously laughed and said, Sister Menger, I want to deal with a powerful guy. I want to quickly become powerful, that's why I can only take the risk. If I can successfully cross the first stage in the future, it will be much simpler. But by that time, I still have to trouble Sister Menger. Lu Menger let out a light snort and said, How come you did not go to look for Xianxia? That seductress? She is also very strong. Xianxia could not understand. After he had arrived here, he had never even mentioned Xianxia. Yet Lu Menger had already spoke of her twice. Sister Menger, when can we start? I'll give you 20 building foundation dawn as a compensation. This compensation can't be considered low. Xianxia said. 20 building foundation dawn were naturally not low. What Lu Menger must do was very simple, and it was rather simpler than refining spirit equipment. She'd just have to look after the furnace and control the flames well, that was enough. Follow me. Lu Menger carefully considered for some time, before deciding to help Xianxia. Even if Xianxia had not offered to give building foundation dawn, she would have still helped him. She wanted to obtain the building foundation dawn from Xianxia, because she must prepare before the great storm. She wanted to train many powerful disciples to consolidate their basic strength. She could feel Xianxia was good to her, although he usually molested her, but it still brought both of them closer. Sister Menger, to tell you the truth, my dean bought them from me. I sold it to him for 500,000 crystal stones for 1 dan. You are my Sister Menger, that is why I brought them along with me. If I have more in the future, I will give them to you. Xianxia smiled and said. To women, using the materialistic attack was extremely effective. Take Elder Dan for instance, she was rather obedient now. While speaking, Xianxia took out 20 true elemental dawn and gave it to Lu Menger. Xianxia, from where did you get so many building foundation dawn? Lu Menger asked rather doubtfully. She took a look and found that these building foundation dawn were all of top-grade quality. Xianxia mischievously laughed. If I said they were refined by me, will you believe? I don't believe, Lu Menger immediately replied. Accompanying Xianxia, they walked towards a hill in front. At the foot of this hill there was a cave entrance. Xianxia just laughed. In the future, when you see Elder Dan, ask her, then you'll know. Lu Menger still didn't believe. Rather, with jealousy in her tone, she asked, how did you hook up with Hua Xiangyue, that seductress? Xianxia pursed his lips. Sister Menger, why do you care so much about this? Xianxia was not as tensed as you. A flush appeared on Lu Menger's pretty face. She herself didn't know why she was always concerned about this. But whenever she thought of Hua Xiangyue ambiguously touching Xianxia's cheek, she would always feel inexplicable uncomfortableness in her heart. I'm worried for Xianxia. Are Yulan and Xianxia not enough for you? Lu Menger said in a low voice. She was already aware of the feelings Leng Yulan had for Xianxia. She knew Leng Yulan would stay together with Xianxia sooner or later, and Xue Xianxian wouldn't be against it. On the contrary, she would just get very close with Leng Yulan. How can it be enough? Unless Sister Menger also marries me. Xianxia touched his chin as he said with a grin. Lu Menger bit her lips, turned around and hit Xianxia's head. You're joking in front of me, that's okay. But never ever say that in front of Xianxian and the others. Explain honestly, in the end, what is your relation with Hua Xiangyue? Although she is a very powerful woman, you brat have many means in hand. Hua Xiangyue getting closer with you is not impossible. Even Hua Xiangyue, an aloof Nirvana realm figure, didn't have any resistance towards Xianxia at all. I came to know her in the secular world. Xianxia, one by one, lay it all about how he encountered Hua Xiangyue in the secular world. On hearing this, Lu Menger was very surprised. She didn't expect Hua Xiangyue to actually have such close relations to Xianxia. She knew Hua Xiangyue's status was not low, but at that time that seductress actually let Xianxia, the little rascal who had not even entered the true marital realm, to look at her body. Moreover, it was also intentional. This woman's insight is actually so formidable. She had actually foreseen you'll have today's achievements. Xianxian and Yulan were also not mistaken, and you were actually not tempted. Lu Menger heaved a sigh. Xianxia asked, Sister Menger, who the hell is Hua Xiangyue? It seems she is responsible for managing Danxiang Taoyuan. Don't ask me. I too am not clear with things about her. Many years ago, she suddenly jumped out of nowhere, claiming to be a maid of the dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan. In her hands, she has the token of Danxiang Taoyuan's dean, and now she is responsible for dealing with many matters of Danxiang Taoyuan, as well as all those which were handled by the elders. Lu Menger shook her head. Don't you regret not accepting her as your woman that time? Of course not. Now, whenever I want to make her my maid, it will be done. Xianxia proudly replied, although he was just joking. Who would believe it? Although that seductress is coquettish, she is extremely strong, at least in the Nirvana realm. Usually, she would have very little contact with other men, but why would she be so good to you? Lu Menger said doubtfully. Xianxia also did not understand this. He just laughed and said, This is my charm, Sister Menger. Weren't you also impressed by my charm? Pa! Don't boast. Keep a little bit of your strength for screaming. You will definitely die from pain. Lu Menger spat out a mouthful of saliva. As they walked into the cave, Xianxia felt a bizarre stifling heat coming from inside the cave, causing him to become rather tensed. After entering the belly of the mountain, a huge square furnace came into his view. It reached the top of the hill and exuded a continuous scorching hot aura. Although it was very common in appearance, it could be easily seen that this huge furnace was ancient. It's very big, Xianxia exclaimed. No need to use this for refining you. It would be too wasteful. I'd rather use this. Lu Menger took out a four-legged furnace. It appeared to be made entirely out of white jade, but it was also very small. Xianxia looked at that little jade cauldron on Lu Menger's palm and could not help but burst into laughter. Sister Menger, are you kidding me? What can this little thing do? There's no way anything but my little finger can be refined in there. Lu Menger glared at him and said, Inexperienced fellow. After Lu Menger put the jade cauldron on the ground, her eyebrows knit together as a white light suddenly burst out of the jade cauldron. It started growing in size before it became as high as a human, in the blink of an eye. Xianxia was suddenly dumbfounded. This jade cauldron could suddenly become many times larger. He knew this kind of mystical thing was definitely very rare. As if to confirm his suspicions, Su Meiyao soon tenderly shouted, This is the white jade dragon cauldron. It is also made up of dragon jade, similar to your brilliant flame dragon furnace. This woman is truly marvelous. Otherwise, she would not have the vermilion bird tender thread along with this cauldron. Her parents must be famous figures in the heavenly realm. The white jade dragon cauldron incorporates many rare materials. Due to this, the cauldron can become larger or smaller. The largest it should be able to become is the size of a hill. More than 10,000 years ago, it once appeared in the heavenly realm, setting off a sanguinary, but later there was no trace of it to be found anywhere. Long Shui was also very surprised. This white jade dragon cauldron could be said to be better than your brilliant flame dragon furnace. Xianxia gulped mouthful of saliva and said in surprise, Sister Menger, is this the white jade dragon cauldron? At this time, Lu Menger turned around in surprise as she hastily asked, How did you know? My mother and father told me that I absolutely can't reveal the name of this cauldron. Otherwise it would bring a fatal disaster. Xianxia said softly, This cauldron should have set off a spree of plundering and murdering within the heavenly realm all those years ago. Was your kiss of the jade dragon also given to you by your parents? In the end, who are your parents? They actually are so formidable and even gave you so many good things. Lu Menger also felt very confused regarding this matter. She shook her head. I don't know either. How do you know about this white jade dragon cauldron? The senior told me. Xianxia spread his hands and smiled. He had already told Lu Menger that he had obtained the guidance of a mysterious senior, which was why he knew about so many things. Lu Menger faintly sighed. Xianxia had also told her that he needed to keep the identity of this senior a secret, which was why she could not ask anything. When I refine equipment, this cauldron has aided me a lot. It allows me to do double the work with half the effort. Moreover, the refined materials are all much better. That being said, I rarely use it. Only when I want to refine something extremely powerful will I use it. Lu Menger made the white jade dragon cauldron turn a lot smaller. Afterwards, she placed pieces of iron in it, for Xianxia to soak in. Sister Menger, why was the weapon refined for Yulan not that good? In the southern wasteland, she was using a rundown blade, while Xianxian's weapon was quite good. Xianxia asked. Rest assured, I'll refine a good weapon for her. Do you think I'm biased like you? Only good to one person. Lu Menger said with a pouty face, which looked rather cute. The onlooking Xianxia very much wished to squeeze her face. When was I biased? I'm innocent. Xianxia spread his hands and asked, I'll not give you half of the adamantal crocodile python. Leave it alone so I can use it to forge Lung Yulan's weapon. Lu Menger made the white jade dragon cauldron become a lot bigger, before pressing one hand on the foot of the furnace. As she poured in the fire, a bunch of flames from her tender palm surged out, before the snow-white furnace suddenly turned fiery red. The iron pieces inside it melted, becoming molten iron in the blink of eye. Cut the crap, you must be well prepared. Going inside is not a joke. Lu Menger weakened the fire, then once again put in a few pieces of golden red stones. The molten iron inside suddenly started seething and broke out with scorching chi waves one after the other. Seeing this, Xianxia could not help but gulp a mouthful of saliva. This molten iron could really send fear into one's heart. Xianxia had already memorized the cultivation chanting formula. There was nothing to prepare for anymore. He took a long deep breath, thinking of the insufficient strength he had and the scene where he was almost forced to kneel down by Lu Jie. His blood boiled with anger and he clenched his fist tightly. Chun xiang off his clothes, which caused Lu Menger to suddenly utter a rather sharp scream and blush. She hastily flung her head and yelled, "Little bastard! What the hell are you doing?" Chun xiang grinned mischievously. "Of course I'm undressing. Taking a bath while wearing clothes. Is such a thing comfortable for you? Although the last time you unknowingly showed me your big rabbits. I know it is rather disadvantageous for a woman, that's why I'm paying you back. This way, we're even." Lu Menger suddenly felt extreme shame and anger. She was red all the way up to her ears. She fiercely stamped her foot before tenderly shouting, "Don't you fear I'll burn you to death? You little rascal. How can you always be this annoying?" Chun xiang fiercely took a jump and landed at the edge of the furnace. He looked at the golden-red molten iron below, and suddenly his hair stood up. He took few deep breaths and said with a wry smile, "Sister Menger, you cannot bear to burn me to death." After Chun xiang finished speaking, he jumped down into the cauldron. Just as Lu Menger wanted to say something, she heard Chun xiang squealing like a pig getting butchered. Her complexion turned pale from fear. She hastily and tenderly shouted, "Little rascal, are you all right? How are you feeling? If you cannot bear it, then quickly come out." Seeing this noble and decorous beauty so concerned about him, Chun xiang felt warmth. He felt there was nothing to fear, and clenched his teeth before saying, "I'm all right. In order to become strong, I'm ready to bear any kind of pain. Sister Menger, increase the temperature, it is not high enough. I'm exercising the skill, but it is not working." Lu Menger nibbled her red lips. She also didn't know why she felt pain in her heart. She increased the fire, which made the special molten iron in the furnace fiercely start seething. Meanwhile, Chun xiang burst into bellowing bray which made her heart secretly throb with pain. "Why do I always accompany this little rascal in doing something crazy?" Lu Menger asked herself. Her nibbled lips were about to bleed from the constant pressure. "Listen up, you little rascal. I'm going to mobilize the bizarre formation inside the white jade dragon cauldron to increase your flow of time. On the outside, it will be only 3 hours for me, but it will be 3 days for you. However, I must cover the lid. If anything goes wrong, tell me immediately using your divine sense." Lu Menger said. She found that after hearing those painful screams from Chun xiang, she could not calm herself down. If she could not control flame well due to her flaring emotions, Chun xiang would fail in his cultivation. "All right, hurry." Chun xiang found the temperature inside rather unstable, and he had yet not successfully exercised the skill. After the lid was covered, the mountain belly suddenly quieted down. However, Lu Menger's heart was still not calm. She was extremely worried about Chun xiang, but just a moment ago she could see Chun xiang's desire for power. This was the way Chun xiang could steadily achieve the power he desired. She had to do her best to help him. Inside the white jade dragon cauldron, Chun xiang kept on howling in pain without stopping. At this point, the temperature had already been stabilized, and as he operated the exercise, the true qi revolved in accordance with the specified circulation in his meridians. The molten iron stimulated his body, giving birth to a peculiar energy that appeared in his bones and muscles. It was a kind of golden energy that directly fused with his muscles. Chun xiang had experienced endless pain, and the idea of giving up had appeared many times in his heart. But whenever he thought of Lu Jie wanting to trample on his dignity, determination stemming from anger arose in his heart, making him persist on enduring. "I absolutely cannot give up." Chun xiang wrathfully pounded his fists on the furnace, bursting off with bang-bang sounds. "Little rascal, do you want to come out?" Lu Menger asked with her divine sense. "No," Chun xiang immediately replied. The true qi within his body has already started revolving and entered an excited state. Although he was enduring the pain, he felt his body transforming bit by bit, and this made him incomparably refreshed. If he was successful, he would acquire the 5th level immortal and devil body. If exchanged with an extreme state's body, it would not be as formidable as him. In other words, his defense in the future would become even more formidable. During the refinement process, Xianxia had already controlled the black tortoise adamantal armor into not resisting the scorching heat, otherwise there would be no point in jumping inside the furnace. After an hour passed, Lu Menjie once again asked Xianxia whether he wanted to leave or not. But after discovering that Xianxia could still answer, she heaved a sigh of relief. Although only an hour had passed on the outside within the furnace, a whole day had already passed by while her true chi and divine sense kept on being drained. Pushing the time formation required a lot of her strength. After all, there was a living person inside. For this kind of perverse actions of Xianxia, Lu Menjie knew she could not use common sense to deal with it. Xianxia was only just a few levels into the true martial realm, yet he had tempered his body into the second level of the immortal and devil body, which was extremely difficult. And after the refinement, he would have the fifth level immortal and devil body, which was even more astounding. There was not a moment when Lu Menjie was not worried about Xianxia's life. She decided not to do this kind of crazy stuff together with Xianxia ever again, because this kind of worry was unprecedented for her. She was worried Xianxia would die, and thinking of the smiling little rascal leaving her, her heart suddenly felt a throbbing pain. As Xianxia cultivated in accordance with the black tortoise external strength technique, he only felt the strength of his body soaring. He had never felt like this before. In just a short 3 days, he felt his own body was several times stronger than 3 days ago. Although he had advanced by only 3 levels, each additional stage of the immortal and devil body was pretty much different. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Of course, only 3 hours had passed on the outside. In these 3 hours, Lu Menjie was worried to death. She suddenly felt her own feelings for Xianxia, those vague feelings, becoming clearer and clearer. But she neither dared to admit nor dare to face this fact. She heaved a complex sigh and scolded. With what kind of sweet talk? Did this little rascal really bewitch me? In the future, I must avoid him. Sister Menjie, I can come out. Lu Menjie suddenly heard Xianxia shouting with his divine sense, so she hurriedly retracted the flames. As she opened the lid, she saw Xianxia leisurely lying on the inside, simply as if there was no molten iron inside, and as if he was just enjoying in the hot springs. Little rascal, are you successful? Lu Menjie shouted in astonishment. Although she was surprised, she was rather joyful. Successful, but currently my whole body is aching. Sister Menjie, you have to massage me. Anyways, you have to help me, Xianxia grinningly said. As he crawled out of the white jade dragon cauldron, Lu Menjie immediately turned her head and tenderly spat. Little rascal, someday I'll make you look good. Xianxia dressed himself, grinned and said, Sister Menjie, thanks a lot. Can I kiss you as thanks? Pooh, no wonder you are successful. Your facial skin is so thick that you are not even afraid of molten iron. Lu Menjie scoffed and said. She walked over, and with her delicate and beautiful hands, she fiercely pinched Xianxia's waist and vigorously gave a twist. Xianxia's soft flesh began turning as Lu Menjie tenderly laughed and said, Don't think your 5th level immortal and devil body is formidable. Xianxia felt the pain in the waist, and he suddenly began howling. Sister Menjie, I was wrong. Quickly stop. Lu Menjie was in the nirvana realm. Although she had not refined her body, but with the intake of spirit chi round the year, her body was nurtured with the true chi, making it become very strong. As a nirvana realm martial artist with just a little bit of her strength, she could make Xianxia feel pain within an inch of his life. Who told you to always bully me? Lu Menjie released Xianxia as she angrily spoke. I just want to dote on Sister Menjie. It's just that Sister Menjie does not appreciate it. Xianxia stuck out his tongue. Seeing Lu Menjie's angry and shy appearance, he secretly complained in his heart. The divine weapon Heavenly Empire's Empress was truly alluring. With just a simple gesture, she could already capture a man's soul. Lu Menjie glared at him. Knock it off. I'm but Xianxian's and Yolan's master. You have to respect me. If others came to know we have this kind of relationship, they would definitely gossip. What relation? Xianxia asked while smiling. Humph. You little rascal. I hate you to death. Lu Menjie stamped her foot on the ground and tenderly scolded. You quickly get out. You're always making me angry. Xianxia suddenly pointed at the white jade dragon cauldron behind Lu Menger and said, "You see that white jade dragon cauldron?" Lu Menger immediately turned her head around. Xianxia immediately approached her face and kissed on her tender cheeks. This caught Lu Menger by surprise for a moment, before she burst into a series of curses while Xianxia had already run out of the cave. Lu Menger's beautiful face was flushed red. She softly snorted, before she received the white jade dragon cauldron and went out. "Be careful that you don't get killed. You still have Xianxia and Yulan." Lu Menger knew Xianxia was going to fight a powerful adversary. Thus she exhorted, "I also have my beautiful sister Menger." Xianxia grinned ear to ear, then rushed out of the courtyard entrance. He swaggeringly walked into the Divine Weapon Palace. If not for his need to return quickly, he would have definitely stayed with Lu Menger for some time. Being together with the Empress made him strangely excited. Xianxia flew back to the extreme martial sect, and in total it only took him 5 days. Before he left, he also gave the black armored crocodile he had obtained in the southern wasteland to Lu Menger to let her forge an armor for Lang Yulan. After returning to the extreme martial sect, Xianxia immediately inquired about Lu Jie's location, and he came to know that he was in the first martial courtyard. In that place he had already roped in a lot of people, and he also fared very well with several true disciples of the first martial courtyard. After Xianxia and Lu Jie's matter occurred, Xianxia had disappeared, and according to Lu Jie, Xianxia would not be able to recover before 1 to 2 years. This clearly proved he was a lot stronger than Xianxia. However, many thought he was just being shameless. Not only was he older than Xianxia, he was also a lot stronger than Xianxia in Cultivation. He got so proud after winning against Xianxia, as if he had won against a 9th-level true martial realm martial artist. Humph, a 7th-level true martial realm guy winning again Xianxia, a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist, and actually still boasting. He really has thick skin. Zhu Rong, while looking at Lu Jie far away in the square, ridiculed. Exactly, this kind of guy is simply not in the same level as elder brother Chun. Yun Xiaodao sneered in agreement. Their voices were rather loud, causing many to hear. After the distant Lu Jie heard, his complexion turned incomparably colder. His figure suddenly disappeared, and in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Zhu Rong. "Damn fatty, do not think after entering the King Martial Courtyard, you can be self-righteous. Not to mention you, even Xianxia. I could slap you both to death," Lu Jie coldly said. He raised his palm high and fiercely smacked towards Zhu Rong's face. Just as Zhu Rong thought he was dead, Lu Jie's hand suddenly came to a halt. Xianxia's tall and strong figure appeared in front of him, blocking Lu Jie's wrist with just his finger, completely stopping Lu Jie's assault. Once Xianxia arrived, Yun Xiaodao and the others heaved a sigh of relief. They did not expect Lu Jie to be so bold, even daring to move against them here, which was a clear violation of the sect rules. Lu Jie's complexion changed because of Xianxia's sudden appearance. Even he himself had not perceived Xianxia, and moreover, Xianxia had even blocked his attack. Truly a shameless fellow who only knows how to bully the weak. Xianxia sneered while staring at Lu Jie. He was a head taller than Lu Jie, and even his stature was sturdier than Lu Jie. With regards to their physique, Lu Jie appeared to be a lot weaker than him. At this time, 3 true disciples from behind Lu Jie also arrived. One was in 6th level, one was in 7th level, and the last one was in 8th level. In the extreme martial sect, there were not many true martial realm disciples, so Xianxia, with a single glance, recognized the 3. Lu Jie retracted his hand. In his heart, he was also surprised because Xianxia appeared to be somewhat stronger. And it had only been a short 5 days, that's all. Originally, he believed it would take Xianxia at least 1 or 2 years before he could recover, yet in just 5 days he was already all right. "Xianxia, don't you remember the lesson I taught you last time?" Lu Jie's pair of angry eyes stared at Xianxia. "Of course I remembered, and it was because I remembered that I came to look for you. You almost killed me last time." Xianxia clenched his fist as his bones burst into crackling sounds. His voice was full of anger. Lu Jie loudly laughed. "Are you looking to compete with me?" However, you and I are not in the same level. I will not accept your challenge, lest others say I bully the weak. You don't deserve to fight with me. You are just a weak guy, a garbage whom had almost kneeled in front of me. Xianxia let loose of his clenched fist and became very calm. But suddenly, the surroundings were enveloped with slaughter chi. However, it only appeared for a moment, before it completely disappeared. This was Xianxia's appearance under extreme anger. A very furious person was rather terrifying when he was very calm. Anger would make one even more powerful, but it would also make them lose their wits. However, if someone remained calm in a state of fury, he could release the hidden strength in his body, and at the same time he could calmly control that strength. If you wish to fight with Brother Lu, first you must receive my 2 moves, and also without weapon. A young man beside Lu Jie spoke at this time. His tone was very frivolous and arrogant, and he didn't even place Xianxia in his eyes. He was a 6th-level true martial realm disciple named Ingqilai, and he was a figure from the same generation as Hao Dongxing, Yao Haisheng, and the others. So long as you defeat Brother Ing, I will reluctantly fight. He had not finished his sentence, before a golden light flashed out. It was Xianxia's fist. That fierce punch was like a beam, bursting forth with intense slaughter chi and destructive power while in motion. At the same time, it was accompanied by a deafening tiger roar that was filled with slaughter and violence, causing the surrounding people to quiver in fear. This was the White Tiger Divine Fist. Without using the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, Xianxia was just as terrible because the martial technique he was using was divine exercise. As Xianxia struck his fist, no one had the chance to react. Ingqilai's face, which was filled with disdain, had no room to change. Xianxia's golden tiger head fist directly landed on his nose as the quiet square could clearly hear the sound of nose breaking. It was followed by a burst of deafening roar, accompanied with blood-curdling screams. Ingqilai flew out the square, slammed into a martial courtyard's wall far away, destroying the solid wall. His life's condition was unknown. Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong, and Su Weilong. The trio's faces were sweating profusely. Just a moment ago, that punch was truly too violent, and it was so fast that it did not give anyone any time to react. As its sudden and explosive force was released, it made sure that it was very difficult to resist. A fist took out a 6th-level true martial realm martial artist in just a second. This kind of strength was incomparably shocking for others. Ingqilai believed that Xianxia, without the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade, this divine weapon, would not have a lot of strength remaining. However, he was wrong as his handsome face was completely ruined by Xianxia. Xianxia's fist had almost taken his life, and if Xianxia had not shown mercy, he might have been crippled. Xianxia only let him suffer a bit of internal injuries, as well as a broken nose, that's all. Now can I fight with you? Xianxia rubbed his fist while indifferently watching Lu Jie. Lu Jie was also caught in surprise. If Xianxia had punched him instead a moment ago, he also had no way to dodge. He was the closest to Xianxia and Ingqilai, and he could clearly observe the fist's speed as well as strength. At the very least, he himself couldn't even see how Xianxia punched. He only saw a golden light rushing through, and then Ingqilai immediately flew out. Within just 5 days, Xianxia had become a lot stronger. Even Lu Jie couldn't help but become fearful. However, he did not find any enhancement in Xianxia's true qi. Just as before, from Xianxia's aura, he could see that he was still in the 5th level of the true martial realm. Fight here? Lu Jie asked. A few days ago, although he had almost made Xianxia kneel down, he still failed to garner recognition of the others, and even though Xianxia at that time was defeated, his reputation hadn't even increased, which made him even more jealous and angry. Yes, right here. Life and death battle. Xianxia spoke word by word. Good, before the dean and the others arrive, I'll be finished with you. While speaking, Lu Jie's eyebrows twitched as Xianxia suddenly felt a power invading him, impacting towards his dantian. The power was comparatively strong at the beginning, but in the end, it became a lot weaker. Lu Jie didn't move, yet he had already launched the attack. Moreover, it was extremely quick. This was precisely the ghost martial technique. Last time, Xianxia was at a disadvantage, and in order to not be disadvantaged anymore, he had endured excruciating pain for 3 days and 3 nights straight, and cultivated his body to the 5th level of the immortal and devil body. Yun Xiaodao and the others retreated back in succession. Everyone around them also hastily retreated back. These two were rather strong, and after the fight, the square would probably be brought to ruins. This time, Xianxia could clearly feel an extremely fast fist pounding on his abdomen. However, he was already prepared. That was why he wasn't the least bit afraid. After his body lightly shook, the power disappeared. His physical strength had improved by several times, but the scene was rather worlds apart compared to before. This time, he had very easily fended off the ghost martial technique. Stronger than last time, but it still cannot do anything to me. Xianxia spoke to himself in his heart as he looked at Lu Jie with a sneer. Lu Jie suddenly stared dumbfoundedly as he retreated a few steps in shock. His proud ghost martial technique had actually failed, and it was even unable to make Xianxia fall down to the ground. When he had used it a few days ago, the strength he had used was a lot weaker, yet Xianxia was already vomiting blood from serious injuries. But now, his attack didn't even affect Xianxia in the slightest. He is just in the 5th level of the true martial realm. I do not have to be afraid. I'll try again. Lu Jie told himself in his heart, then once again quietly casted a move. However, it still did not show any effect, and this time, Xianxia's body did not even budge a bit. Xianxia sneered, "Playtime's over, my turn." While speaking, he waved his hand as 5 fingers were stretched out. Just like an eagle claw, it burst into azure light, forming a huge dragon claw which struck towards Lu Jie. This one claw was quite fast, just like the white tiger divine fist he had used a moment ago. Moreover, it also carried tyrannical lightning power. Although Lu Jie was surprised, his battle experience was very rich. He leaned back a bit, dodging that frightening azure dragon claw. However, his chest was still scalded from the lightning chi gushing out of the tips of the dragon claws, leaving 3 charred bloodstains on his chest. Xianxia didn't want to ruin this large square. That was why when he started his offense, he did not use a powerful martial skill. Lest Gu Dongqin and the others blamed him. Lu Jie quickly retreated as a frown appeared on his face. His left leg slightly moved as an invisible yet powerful chi suddenly surged towards Xianxia's right calf. Xianxia could feel a power akin to a leg sweep being released. It was like invisible legs sweeping over the ground, with an exceptionally strong momentum. Xianxia mobilized his chi into a layer, which then suddenly appeared on both of his legs, slightly transfixing him onto the ground. When the leg sweep arrived, Xianxia was not fazed even a bit, only the dust was swept. Although his leg was struck by that powerful leg sweep, he didn't feel any pain. Now that he had a 5th level immortal and devil body, his whole body was like made up of copper skin and iron bones. For him, this kind of attack was rather weak and he just felt ticklish. Lu Jie, your sneaky attacks are useless to me, Xianxia sneered. Just as his feet slid like a cloud of smoke, he arrived in front of Lu Jie. At the same time, he fiercely brandished his fists as numerous golden fists surged forth, like a tide sweeping through, accompanied with a tiger roar filled with killing intent. His attacks shook everyone's soul as it reverberated in the sky. Xianxia's overwhelming white tiger divine fist enveloped Lu Jie as chi undulations flooded everywhere. The air released muffled sounds from shock. This kind of fist was filled with violent power, drowning everyone else in fear. Lu Jie was also not bad. A gray chi cover appeared on his body, enveloping him in it, resisting those tiger heads' golden fist. In a blink of an eye, Xianxia had already released hundreds of fists, and each fist was like lighting, continuously bombarding on that gray chi cover. Each and every wave of attack sent Lu Jie's heart into trembling. He had never expected that the moderate true chi in Xianxia's body, after it has been casted through a martial skill, would actually become so overbearing and frightening, as if a tiger god of slaughter was bombarding with countless attacks. Humph! Xianxia looked at Lu Jie's chi cover that was gradually getting weaker and weaker under his onslaught. His attacks were then followed by a palm, which suddenly made the square tremble as soon as it struck its target. The surroundings of Wuxia were suddenly cracked open. Xianxia had used the shocking heaven palm. Passing through the chi cover, it ruthlessly shook Wuxia, and after his body was invaded by the shock, the blood and chi in his body turned chaotic. What Wuxia did not expect was that, after Xianxia shot a palm, he continued with another, then another, and continued without stopping. Moreover, in a very quick speed, Xianxia once again used the tiger head golden fist from a moment ago. From the continuous shocks, the bricks in the square were beginning to let loose, while the bricks in the surroundings of Wuxia turned into powder, because of Xianxia's continuous attacks. Your sneaky move can't be used anymore. Now do you have anything else? Where did your 3 pulse strength go? You have 3 kinds of true chi, but as mediocre as you are, they are simply wasted. Xianxia coldly said. Both of his palms struck without a trace of slowing down, constantly smacking on that true chi cover of Wuxia, which was gradually becoming weaker and weaker. Xianxia was currently using the universe true chi from the fusion of his 5 elements true chi. It was the strongest state of his true chi, comparable to the 7th level of the true martial realm. After it was released through the shocking heaven plam, it became even stronger and terrifying. All onlookers were stunned. Although some of them had already witnessed Xianxia's fights, every time they see him again would still cause them to become shocked. They couldn't understand how Xianxia could continuously release such earth-shaking palms. Was Xianxia's true chi inexhaustible? Even some 7th-level true martial realm martial artists witnessing this could not help but be ashamed. This kind of rich true chi was truly terrifying. If it was someone else, it would be very difficult to cast 100 palms. But Xianxia had already casted more than 100 palms, and yet his breath was still extremely steady, not even showing any sign of exhaustion. The true chi within Xianxia's body hummed as it surged out from his dantian in a steady stream, and finally released out through his palm. Wuxia was already in a sorry state, and his mouth was now full of blood, which was constantly being spewed out. At the moment, his whole body had already turned numb from shock. Although he had 3 kinds of true chi, he could not cultivate them so uniformly and fuse them like Xianxia. He could only use 1 true chi at a time. Moreover, even in the field of martial skills, he could not compare with Xianxia in the slightest. Not to mention that his true chi exercise was also not as good as Xianxia's. Originally, he believed that after learned the ghost martial technique, he could ignore everything. Many stronger than him had been defeated by the aforementioned move. As long as his adversaries were struck by his move, they would suffer serious injuries, which would render them unable to defend, causing them to eventually get killed by him. But now towards Xianxia, his proud move was rendered useless. The 5th level immortal and devil body, in addition to the rich universe true chi, made Xianxia feel as if he had never been so powerful. His blood was seething as he roared again and again, and along with his shout, he was releasing the excitement trapped inside his body. The bricks in the square started moving up and down from the shockwaves of the shocking heaven palm. As for the chi cover Wuxia had released, it had already long disappeared, and Wuxia spat out blood just as he attempted to speak. While Xianxia's palm had transformed into a fist, he was casting the violent white tiger divine fist, which befell on Wuxia like rain. Within a few blinks of an eye, Wuxia, from head to toe, had been rammed by those imposing golden fists full of slaughtering momentum. Xianxia's fists were also carrying suction force, rendering Wuxia incapable to fly out from his strikes. In this way, he had brutally and insanely wreaked havoc with his white tiger divine fist. Should we stop him? On a tower above, Wu Kaming asked. Gudongchen shook his head and said, No need. Let him vent it. In these 5 days, he had grown so much simply to defeat Wuxia. Wu Kaming nodded his head. Everyone challenged by Wuxia were mystically defeated. They did not see or perceive Wuxia's move, yet they were struck at their vital point. This Wuxia had disappeared for 30 years, and when I went to ask him, he only described it vaguely. From one glance, it was clear he was hiding something. Wu Kaming said, He is using the ghost martial technique. Young martial uncle's body is several times stronger than in the past. That's why he could withstand the attack of the ghost martial technique. Gu Dongqin, with a solemn appearance, glanced at the faraway Lu Jie. Wu Kaming was surprised for a moment, before he exclaimed, "Dean really has good eyes and experience. Even I did not expect it to be the ghost martial technique. This is a forbidden martial skill, and anyone cultivating this kind of martial skill will eventually lose their humanity and turn into a devil." Gu Dongchen heaved a long sigh and said, "Lu Jie certainly went to the Devil Yang clan. Only the Devil Yang clan have this kind of stuff. However, the martial artist had to sacrifice a lot to cultivate the ghost martial technique, which is also the reason the martial artist will lose his humanity. Because of this, Gu Dongchen did not stop Xianxia. Lu Jie was someone who had returned from the Devil Path sect, and his purpose for coming to the extreme martial sect could only be imagined. Regarding such people, Gu Dongchen would not be soft. At the moment, he was still brooding about the Souther wasteland. For many years, he had not suffered such shame. He had actually been hoodwinked by the Devil Path sect, and he had almost sent his own sect's disciples to their death. Thinking of this point, Gu Dongchen suddenly clutched his fist. "Junior brother, let's wait for junior sister to come back. Then we will begin our attack on the Devil Path sections. Before the great storm arrives, we will surely eradicate a Devil Path sect."